This information may be interpreted as science fiction or however the viewer decides. It is shared for entertainment purposes, although we take it with utmost importance. Class 9. Galactic Federation. Truth or fiction? Managers of the Earth.
Well, Eckersley should have had more sense.
Doctor,
In a minute, Sarah. Sending the Federation troops is the one thing that is certain to make things worse.
I know it's important for us to be visited by someone from the Galactic Federation. But aren't you making just a bit too much of it, Tim?
Rick, is there anything you'd like to tell us about your relationship with this previously unknown galactic government?
All the important points seem pretty clear, no?
And it is my duty to inform you that the United Federation of Planets has designated planet Lulion 4 in the Vite sector as under the protection of Starfleet.
And at last, from sacrifice and struggle came the impossible. The Federation was born, and a new future began.
It's official. The obscure planet known as Earth has just become the 6,048th planet to join the Galactic Federation.
Hello, my friends. Welcome back. Today's topic is very important. Probably one of the most important ones I must present. Government behind all governments. And that is Galactic Federation of United Planets, or Galactic Federation for short. I don't even know how to open it without you raising eyebrows already, probably associating it with movies and fiction, as that's how it has been portrayed in our culture. But that is done on purpose. And remember what I explained before. It is the controller's jobs, one of many, to insert truth within mainstream entertainment industry. Among other reasons, to more easily discredit it once it is ever mentioned in a serious manner, since the public will already be psychologically prepared to associate it only with fiction. Let's cut to the chase. Fiction it is not, and far from it. And even though the Galactic Federation is not exactly as presented in movies, series, or video games, it does nevertheless exist. And it is my job in this class to briefly explain its structure, goals, and involvement with Earth. Briefly, as it is just the introduction to the topic, and I have to go over many concepts without deepening too much yet. So let's begin. Much to learn. To start, let me remind you of what we talked about in Class 3, and that is the matrix and the matrix agreements, false sets of concepts and shared belief systems imposed on the society by the controlling cabal. One of them, which we already addressed, is the topic of extraterrestrials and the idea we have been led to believe that we are alone in the universe. Another one, strictly related to the previous one, is that there is no other governing bodies beyond what we see in the media shaping and influencing human affairs, let alone governing bodies that extend into space. And this is the topic we will be looking at today. First idea to understand is that all extraterrestrial societies, or most of them as far as I know, operate according to specific social structures and their own way of organizing themselves as social units and with one another. It is only natural, as wherever you have people, ET or not, there will be attempts to put together some kinds of rules of coexisting. One of those structures, a mega one, and the one that concerns us today, is the Galactic Federation. And to understand this topic, you must come to terms with the idea that just as there is government and social structure on Earth, formed in layers, which is what we discussed in the previous video about the levels of Cabal, there is one outside of it too, also layered and compartmentalized. Galactic Federation of United Planets, as translated into the human language, and therefore you may hear of the same organization but with different names, is a physical, multiracial conglomerate of massive proportions that has been established eons ago after the so-called Great Expansion from Lyra, where many races were persecuted by regressive species, part of the so-called Orion Wars. Part of that history will be discussed in the future episodes. Why did I say physical? This to make it clear that the organization I'm referring to here is not etheric, not somewhere in another dimension, and it is not what some in New Age communities call Federation of Light. It is in the same physical realm as Earth, just perhaps in a slightly higher vibratory state. And it is made up of physical, biological people, humanoid and not, literally of thousands of different races, mostly positive, or understood as a consensus to be positive. The Federation was originally founded by three main species: Andromedans, Arcturians, and Lyrians, humanoid ancient root race template, still among most active ones. And its main goal was to establish alliances to face problems in space and to cooperate, all within the coordinated legal and ethical guidelines. You should also know that the whole galactic quadrant is fully under Federation control, and this, of course, includes Earth. Its involvement with Earth has been going through many phases of closer and more remote interaction across millennia, yet it has been continuous and remains so until the present day.
Now, you might find this interesting. In 2020, a former director of space programs for Israel Ministry of Defense for nearly 30 years, widely cited as the father of Israel's space program, Haim Eshed, claimed in an interview with Israeli national newspaper that the United States government had been in contact with extraterrestrials for years and had signed secret agreements with the Galactic Federation. He also stated that Donald Trump was aware of this and was on the verge of informing everyone of their existence, but was stopped by the Federation. Look up the story yourself if it piques your interest. Curious, right? It can be said that the fact that a high-ranked former defense space official made these claims, and he's not the only official to talk about the ETs, by the way, shifts parts of the extraterrestrial debate from fringe conspiracies to a subject of consideration in public discourse. It's not only something that alien nuts talk about. And even though much can be said about the official disclosure attempts and how controlled it usually is, it did create some buzz in the global and social media, with people asking questions about the Galactic Federation itself. Even though the focus on that interview long faded, the debate around the ET topic in general certainly has not. It is actually gaining more and more interest. And there cannot be any debate of ETs to do with our planet without considering Galactic Federation. So let's continue.
The Galactic Federation does not just exist on its own among ET races, somewhere out there in the galaxy far, far away, separated from Earth, its inhabitants, and their matters. This is important. It's not Earth on one side, here, independent, and Galactic Federation, even if you accept it exists, somewhere out there, not concerned about us at all. Quite the contrary. The Federation is strongly associated with life on Earth and its control structures. Always has been. Better said, it is their extension, or deeper, higher, more complex strata. It is what ultimately controls what goes on with Earth. The Earth is not an independent planet. Far from it. It is a heavily regulated place, well inside Federation-controlled space and under its heavy scrutiny and total control. It is the Galactic Federation itself that controls all the governments on Earth from behind. It is the government behind the deep government that controls all the public-level governments and nations on Earth. Even though we looked at the subject in the previous class, let's have a quick look at the Earth's layered power structure again to see how the Federation fits in the picture and why we refer to them as the absolute managers. First, there is an official level that everyone sees, mainstream. Then so-called deep state, run by secret societies. Then a still deeper one, progressively sliding into non-human races, regressive reptilians, greys, etc. And yet a deeper level that is secret societies that run those races. Then, finally, and as hard as it would be to believe to many, we have Galactic Federation, space government of gigantic proportions, generally considered as positive, structured as yet another onion with their own layers of control. Let's now go over some of these layers. The first one that governs over Earth holds meetings in Antarctica, which is the main control center and the real power center of Earth, and from where all governments and secret societies take their orders from. This is where world puppet leaders go to, let's say, pledge their allegiance to their controllers. Deep Cabal, regressive Orion Grace, reptilian and other non-human races representing Federation, making pacts and decisions regarding Earth. Antarctica is basically where human governments meet ET government, Federation. A place where they can control humanity from the surface, knowing that it's off limits to the human population. The Federation manages and controls the world society by giving orders and coordinating directly with the groups of governments behind the governments, and with the leaders of the secret societies, who in turn manipulate the official politicians, who are only public fronts for the larger organizations behind them. Politicians are only fronts or puppets for everything in gigantic mechanism of secret societies that control them behind. Federation speaks to leaders of secret societies of planetary power. Then they pass their orders on to other secret societies dependent on them. These to the deep state, and in turn to the common politicians. About the meetings in Antarctica, it must be briefly mentioned here that not all the positive Federation member ET races are informed of the motive of those meetings. It is not available to the vast majority of the galactic community stationed in Earth's orbit, which, of course, leads to obscurity, suspicion, and unfavorable for the Federation conclusions, which is a whole new subject to explore in the future. In parentheses, the Federation is generally regarded as positive, but there are many problems there, and yes, you guessed right, they will be discussed further down the road. Moving on, the next step in chain of councils that make up the local federation to watch over matters on Earth is the local headquarters in the massive biosphere spaceship called Viera, belonging to the Andromedans, and which is hiding behind the moon. This is where a lot of local, so to speak, extraterrestrial politics take place. But it doesn't stop there. As overwhelming as this may already be to some of you, the control over the Earth extends further out. It continues all the way to the rings of Saturn. What goes on there, however, the exact where, who, and why, is, again, hidden to the majority of ET levels below. It is the solar system control level where all the decisions concerning this system take place, and that includes Earth, but with everything that goes on shrouded in secrecy. Like I said about control structures on Earth, the same system applies here. One level does not always know what happens in those above. Most positive and benevolent ET races operate from lower local federation level, many relegated to roles of guidance and supervision.
Okay, time out. So, I said the Galactic Federation are the top managers of the planet Earth. But I also said that they are structured in layers too. So, which part of the Federation actually manages Earth and how? Well, this is where the topic becomes muddy, as it is precisely that fractioning into levels, groups, races, lower and higher councils, that makes the labeling of the Federation as this or that, or even understanding it in its totality, almost impossible. Each level of the Federation has different responsibilities and ideas, and it comprises of different groups with different points of view and interest, and not always in line with one another. The organization is just very immense. Some races will occupy themselves more with sheer Earth monitoring, analysis, and supervision, others with guidance, others will be more directly engaged in a more humane way, and others not so much, as for example at the Antarctica meetings mentioned above. However, there can be some general characteristics qualifying them as top managers of our planet, and I will try to explain it next. For that, we need to understand a bit more about how the Federation views Earth's citizens.
Interstellar in the ancient past, long story why not anymore, Earth is and has been for a long time a self-contained, technologically and mentally isolated and heavily controlled realm, which we also called matrix, which works through blinding of the population by means of mind and perception control. This creates the context frame for the people of what is called reality, what is possible and what is not, and where humanity will manufacture for themselves the individual and collective world as guided by those control systems. Why through blinding of the population? What do they gain through that? Well, each level of control mentioned in this and in the previous class will have their own interests there. Some more ethical, others not. But since we are looking now at the Galactic Federation, let's briefly see what could be one of their interests in allowing the humans to be blinded. In order to understand the why, you must know that Earth humanity as such is not being considered by them as one species, but one more or less homogeneous, meaning uniform species, that holds souls of many extraterrestrial races as one, in what we call Earth matrix. All of them being different outside Earth, but incarnating into Earth, playing, so to speak, to be human, artificially kept in a lower state of existence to ensure a certain type of experience, an experience that is intense, full of contrasts, limitations, lessons, as they say, a dramatic field providing souls all kinds of direct insights they can't get anywhere else. A challenging place where they can learn to control their vibration and manifestations. And all that under the supervision of the Galactic Federation that controls, monitors, and even coordinates and moves things and events to sustain this artificial existential realm as it is, making treaties, interventions, regulations, etc. Now, the tricky part in understanding all this is that the Federation claims it only moves things towards what the souls themselves want. Do keep in mind that reincarnation is a fact in the stellar community, only facilitating those experiences that ET souls want before coming in, and also those that are already being created by the collective and individual manifestation power of the Earth population. Parentheses, manifestation power and ideas that are heavily manipulated, mind you. So this is where it gets tricky and even shady. They see Earth humans as the avatars of the off-Earth people, biosuits for their souls, who want to experience heavy contrasts and who are entering Earth at their own will and risk. And yes, this means you, me, and everyone else on Earth. I promise to deepen the subject later on. This also means that, from a more expanded point of view, as they claim, many times the means justify the end, and purposely provoking situations that on Earth can be seen as unethical justifies for them the positive final outcome that these unethical events cause. That's where we see some negative events on our planet, sometimes prevented, sometimes simply allowed, but other times plain and simple directly orchestrated. And all that despite non-intervention space laws that they also claim to have to abide by, which points to the hypocrisy within the Federation bureaucratic legal system.
I am not going to enumerate now all the types of interventions conducted by the Galactic Federation with regards to Earth. Let me just state, and you are correct in sensing it, that my friends in orbit, whom I got this information from, and I are not too happy about the methods with which Earth has been managed. The reasons are many, and you will continue to learn as we move forward. There are just too many inconsistencies, political agendas, too little transparency and honesty, and too many suspicious interests that run through this organization. Too much of the same control matrix as on Earth, all the way up to the obscure levels and forces beyond that guide the Federation from behind, although at this point it is not clear what they are. This leads me to the important question on everyone's mind for sure. Is the Federation good then, or bad? Should we be afraid? It is not that simple. Answering it with either yes or no does not apply when it comes to such a gigantic organization constructed of so many levels, cultures, tasks, interests, and even densities. And any attempt to do so would only reflect Earth's human tendency to reductionism and dualism. Federation, like any other institution, is not a single block. It is made up of people, and that means a huge variety of ideas, opinions, and intentions. Most local Federation members are benevolent, loving people, involved in a lot of positive actions and doing their best. Unfortunately, as we perceive it, it is what goes on in the higher levels of the Federation that truly concerns us. It is those hidden layers that pull the strings, commanding important decisions regarding Earth. And there isn't enough transparency on those levels to know what's really going on there. So yes, many Federation members, if not most, of all kinds of races, especially lower-ranking ones, are very positive and with good intentions for Earth. However, in the end, it is the leaders that end up defining institutions, and there just isn't a uniform agreement, even among ET races, about who they ultimately are. You don't trust terrestrial government. Why would you trust a space one? It is basically just more government which regulates cultures capable of interstellar flight the same way as the governments on Earth regulate nations, as one of my friends up there said. In theory, it is run on higher ethics, knowledge and standards, spirituality, and most of its members are positive. But that ends up to be wishful thinking when it comes to the deeper levels of the Federation. That's at least the information I have at the moment. About being afraid, no. The Federation has been managing Earth since ancient times, with on and on direct involvement. So this is nothing new, and they are generally considered positive. There will never be any invasion from the Galactic Federation. They have been controlling it already. It is their turf, the Earth. So this is just to let you know what's going on, as I believe people should know more about the reality around them, especially when it affects them, even when it's behind the scenes. On the topic of them being positive, we must address another important point here, and that is the way Galactic Federation has been presented in some New Age circles. You might have come across some of it, so I must address it. We will not be liked for saying this, but we must keep it real. Let's have a look.
In the beginning of the video, I said that the truth about the existence of the Federation has been woven into the mainstream through movies and entertainment. This is one way how they can manipulate people's perception about these matters, delegating them mostly to the realm of fantasy. But the perception manipulation of these subjects is twofold. Remember Class 4 about Matrix extending into New Age and alternative communities? Please watch it if you haven't already. Not only does Cabal guide people's ideas in the mass culture, but they do that also and especially from within the communities who are just awakening. They infiltrate those communities with the full intention to govern what people think about the extraterrestrials. People are fed lies every day. What makes you think that the UFO community is any different? On the contrary, it is one of the most regulated areas because it concerns many levels that Cabal wants to control people with. It is those areas that are especially disruptive for the status quo of how things are supposed to be on Earth. So, as a tactic, they flood those communities with wobbly narratives and disinformation, and with all kinds of Federation propagandas to make it look better or different than it is, idealizing and presenting them as some type of a cosmic organization of light and justice, aiding from above and seeking humanity's liberation. An almost etheric organization made up of enlightened beings of pure love. What is worse, many of the narratives have been plugged into the mainstream UFO groups by self-appointed emissaries of Galactic Federation and pro-Federation activists, pushing themselves to be an extremely benevolent organization, set to ease all the oppression and freeing people. It's what double-faced human governments do as well, talking about how charitable their actions are, selling promises with no practical results, while the deeper actions and motives remain hidden from the naive public. The New Age field, controlled very much by the CIA, is plugged by the pro-Federation of Love and Light, humanity-liberating psyops, who exploit the human need to hang on to something, to fall in do-nothing and trust mentality, creating new ET-based religions, causing, or at minimum allowing, all the hurt on Earth to later self itself as the humanity's savior, in the now classical strategy of causing a problem to sell the solution. Ideas such as federations of light coming to save humanity from evildoers only perpetuate and reflect the exact mentality the controllers want people in. Yes, the Federation is out there. Yes, they are involved with the humanity. On some level, even guarding it. But they are not idyllic and not interest-free, and still very much immersed in problems and politics. The concept of Galactic Federation of Light, or love, light, and high frequency, whatever that is one of Cabal's best pet initiatives to control human minds. Those higher frequency existential levels of the Galactic Federation do exist, but they are on much higher, more etheric levels. Yes, those exist too, and are not representative of what happens in the lower, physical ones we are discussing here today.
Okay, wow. I managed to touch on so many different points and subjects, each of which could have a video or many on their own. And all of them will be deepened in the future as we progress. Okay, let's make a pause for now and say hello to our community members, people like yourself. What do they have to say on the subject of the Federation? Were they surprised to find out it exists? Do they consider it important to even know about that?
Community Workshop.
First, we have three gentlemen. Zarek from Canada, Alfredo from Argentina, and Yamtor from Chile. So how did they feel about the topic?
I find the existence of the Galactic Federation, and including many different star races, not to be so far-fetched from my understanding and point of view. I can see it much like how on Earth we have many different governments making up the United Nations. I can see the benefits to having an overseeing greater collective which has mutual agreements in place. I was introduced at a young age to the Galactic Federation existing, and that was more implanted through science fiction, like series like Star Trek, or even video games like Metroid. They all seem to reference a similar greater collective overseeing and managing many different worlds. I have little doubt at this point that they exist, even though when I look up into the sky I can't see them right there. So I feel the Galactic Federation is relevant to me now, because I can now understand how they have similarities to the UN here on Earth, and also how there's many differences as well.
For me, the existence of the Galactic Federation was a very interesting confirmation that did not seem strange at all, and allowed me to resolve a doubt I had about the UFO phenomenon, which was, on the one hand, why they do not invade and destroy Earth, or subjugate us or whatever, and on the other hand, why they do not help us solve our problems directly. So my conclusion was that there must be some kind of interstellar law that regulates this. And when I learned of the existence of the Federation, it fits perfectly well that they are in charge of that regulation. It also coincided with information from an Israeli, Chaim Esht, who confirmed that the Galactic Federation exists and that Trump knows about it. So it seemed to me that if an Israeli said so, who has no obligation to say anything, then it's like an extra point.
It didn't really strike me as strange. It seemed very logical to me, but it didn't seem strange to learn that there was a Galactic Federation. I remember when I saw Star Wars, the first movie, it was like, yes, there really is something like that. After seeing Star Trek and the saga, I said, of course, it has to be that way. Something inside me said it had to be that way, and I did find it very reassuring to know that there is something out there, directing everything, organizing everything. The Federation. We must take it as a vision of understanding life down here, and know that it is not separate from what is above. That what is above directing everything may be wrong, may not have the correct vision, because they are out there, up there, they are not here unless they come to live here, right? To understand what is happening. And from down here, we cannot categorize that things up there must be this or that way because we are not there either. So I think it is very important for us to know all this, because life is not just one thing. It is an expression that embodies the entire universe, and we must know how those mechanisms work, how this matrix works, how the other matrix works.
Okay, so you see, for them it wasn't strange. It made sense that there is some kind of a regulating body. And, you know, one of them, when he saw it in movies, he thought, well, yeah, it must exist this way. Makes sense. So, yeah, thank you very much, guys. Now, Shariva from United States.
When I first learned that the Galactic Federation was a real thing, 4 things came to mind. Number 1, we are living in the Truman Show. We've been lied to. And actually, it was quite disappointing to realize that there's more politics and law in space. I somehow thought that ETs were more spiritual or had, you know, psychic powers, and maybe they are, and maybe they do, but it also, you know, made me realize that they are just people, and maybe they look like us, and maybe they don't. I think it just made me question what I perceived the unseen world to be kind of a fuzzy spiritual concept. I realize it's just we are lacking knowledge, we're lacking technology, and we have a narrow range of perception. But frankly, it was disappointing to think there's an organization up there that is allowing this shit show to go on down here. So wake up, because this place needs to change.
So this is interesting because Shariva actually was disappointed the same way as I was when I was first discovering this topic. She was imagining, this is some kind of a just more spiritual organization, more mythical. We are fantasizing over that that organization in some way, in some circles. I certainly did. I felt the same way. I felt disappointed when I was discovering that there is so much politics, that there is so many conflicts and misunderstandings and politics. As before, I was conditioned, I think, by the New Age to view the Galactic Federation as this idealistic love and light organization that just fights evil and protects the universe. But unfortunately, it's not necessarily this way. Now we have Agustin Delfin from Chile.
Yes. I found it quite strange when I heard the word Galactic Federation. This was in the late 1990s, and I began to hear a lot of information and see a lot of information on the internet at that time, when the internet was still in its infancy here in Chile, but information about the Galactic Federation was already beginning to appear. Why did I find it strange? Because when I heard that word, I felt something in my heart and in my gut, in my stomach. It was a feeling of discomfort that something was not right with that word. So, from that time until now, I have found an answer to what I felt, that there was something that did not agree with what I was sensing, feeling. I felt something, I saw something. I have had a lot of experience with ships, seeing them in the sky, and also the ones who landed here in Chile, and the Federation concept has never entered my heart, my stomach, my body. From the beginning, I felt absolute rejection. I know there is something there that doesn't fit, that doesn't connect with me, that I don't feel is coherent. So that's what happened to me with the Federation in my internal connection.
So this was, I don't see super well from the far distance. So this was also interesting, as Agustin was sensing something was not fully right with the Federation. Again, it was opposite of how I felt when I was first and visualizing the Galactic Federation. And now lastly, we have Darek from Poland.
I see the topic of the Galactic Federation as very complex and, at the same time, evoking ambivalent feelings in me. On the one hand, it is an amazing concept. Amazing, straight out of cinema, science fiction, reminiscent of series such as Star Trek. And on the other hand, it is something very typical, normal, and logically speaking, it could not be otherwise. Let me explain what I mean. On the one hand, we have people who, even if they are interested in extraterrestrial topics, are often at a level where they believe or wonder if somewhere out there in deep space there is or could be some advanced race, some advanced civilization. When we talk about the Federation, we are not talking hypothetically about a single race that exists somewhere out there in space and is elusive and mythological, but rather about a vast network of relationships. We are talking about different, diverse races and civilizations that interact with each other and form agreements based on legal principles. That is, a federation. What seems to me to be most typical and normal is that, assuming the universality of life in the universe, it is completely natural, normal, logical, and rational to assume that these advanced races create advanced socio-political structures that facilitate these interactions. So, on the one hand, I understand that the existence of the Federation may seem incredible, straight out of science fiction. But on the other hand, if you think about it, it is logical. In fact, it couldn't be any other way. I would also like to mention that knowledge about the existence of the Federation is very important to us, even essential, because the Federation has a real impact on what is happening in our world here on Earth. And without knowledge of the Federation's existence, we isolate ourselves from understanding the situation we find ourselves in. What is more, the very knowledge of the Federation's existence, the very understanding that such a thing exists and that it has influence here, is already a step not only towards understanding our situation, as I said, but also towards potential future contact, so that one day, we as people from Earth can also be part of such a federation, not on the basis of some group supposedly representing Earth deciding for us, on our behalf, but only we as humans will truly be able to become another member race of the Federation. But for that to happen, we first simply need to know about it.
Thanks so much, Darek. This was also very important point. Again, it's logical. If you're going to assume and accept that there are ET races out there and groups, well, obviously they are going to have some sort of organizational structures to coexist. And also it's important, and we will discuss this in the next video as well, because it does affect Earth. Even though it's in behind the shadows, it does affect Earth. And like Derek said, that was also very, very important. If we are interested in some kind of a positive, official, open, more direct communication with those people from space, well, first we need to understand that they are there and how they are organized and what's really happening. So thank you very much, everybody. And now join me for the final important comments, and you will see what the next video will be. Thank you for sticking with me till the end, for having an open mind. The subject was important, although all of them are and are interconnected. I tried to keep it real and share parts of what I know in an honest way. Parts, as it's impossible to jam it all in a single video. The Galactic Federation isolates the Earth. Our concept is quite the opposite, as we believe in truth for humans, in awakening them to the facts of life, in giving them the knowledge back, at least from our perspective. You change the perception of the people who are manifesting the matrix from the inside, and you are that much closer to solving the problem, because the underlying, unspoken yet truth is that the population of Earth at large, individually and collectively, is the one who is truly steering the destiny and the course of society on Earth. From one level, and it is not the contradiction, it is the leaders of the Galactic Federation who pull the strings, yes. But from another, it is us that command the direction this civilization goes. And it is all a learning game designed by who is living it. We are more powerful we think we are. Sounds intriguing? Well, stick around. We will go into this very important topic as well. But for now, for the next class, let's take a moment to reflect. I think some of you may be thinking, okay, this is all very interesting, but like you said, it's happening behind the scenes and somewhere in space, so why should I even be bothered? I still need to go to work and pay my bills. How does knowing all this matter? I just don't care. Well, in the next video, I will tell you why I think you should. Thank you again, and have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Class summary. The government behind all governments to do with affairs on Earth is the Galactic Federation of United Planets, stationed outside our planet. It is a physical organization comprised of biological people, humanoid and not humanoid, of 1,000 races, mostly positive. The whole galactic quadrant is fully under Federation control and management, and this, of course, includes Earth. The main control center of Earth is located in Antarctica, where human governments meet ET Government Federation Not all positive Federation ET races members have access to know what goes in Antarctica meetings or deeper levels of the Federation. Local headquarters of Federation is the Andromedan ship Viera, stationed behind the moon. Next layer after that, shrouded in mystery, is situated in Saturn. Federation sees Earth humans as biosuit avatars holding souls of many ET races in a seemingly one race. Many harsh life situations are justified, according to them, as something the souls themselves want. Federation is considered to be a positive organization, and most of its members are. However, its absolute leaders are shady and difficult to locate, and there is not enough transparency, even among the members themselves. Another way to control how the Federation is perceived in public is not only through media and entertainment, but also seeding narratives in the UFO communities about being all love, light, and unity, when it is absolutely not.